People said her voice could heal, yet no one beyond the night market ever heard it. For Liana, singing was something sacred, something she carried quietly, like a tiny flame she protected from the winds of poverty. Each dawn, before the city stirred, she stood barefoot in their cramped, peeling room, practicing in whispers so she wouldn't wake her mother. The soft hum of the oxygen tank filled the silence, steady but fragile, reminding her that time was never promised. The tear-jerking twist began with a moment she hadn't even noticed. One rainy afternoon, she offered her umbrella to a stranger who had none, an act so small she forgot it instantly. But he didn't. He recorded her singing for fun as she packed up her tiny stall, and days later, that simple clip exploded across the internet. Overnight, comments poured in. Who is she? Where has this voice been hiding? And buried between messages from producers and talent scouts was one that made her heart stop, an invitation to audition for the world's biggest stage. But with opportunity came fear. Liana worried about leaving her mother alone, about medical costs, about disappointing people who believed in her. A painful misunderstanding followed when she tried to decline the invitation, thinking it was the responsible choice. Her mother thought Liana doubted her own worth. Their voices trembled, not with anger, but with the weight of love stretched thin by survival. Then, with trembling hands, her mother pulled Liana close and whispered, "Child, your dreams have carried me longer than any medicine. Let them carry you now." Those words broke something open inside her, fear, guilt, hesitation, releasing something braver. And that morning, in a room filled with peeling paint and unstoppable hope, Liana finally said yes to destiny. The audition day arrived wrapped in nerves and borrowed courage. Liana stepped into the massive theater, its lights blinding, its silence heavy with expectations. She clutched the old scarf her mother gave her, threadbare, but warm with memory. Backstage, she overheard contestants talking about vocal coaches, stylists, and years of training. She had none of those. All she carried was a lifetime of singing into cracked walls and open air. When her name was called, her legs felt like they were learning to walk again. The judges looked up, waiting, unreadable. A misunderstanding struck her heart like a stone. One judge whispered to another while adjusting his papers, and Liana thought they were already doubting her. Her voice wavered. For a moment, the crowd sensed her fear. But then she remembered her mother's words, almost hearing them carried by the air. Dreams are not for the perfect, but for the brave. With a deep breath, Liana began. The first notes were soft, too soft, but something inside her unlocked as she sang. Her voice rose, carrying every sacrifice, every night market struggle, every quiet prayer whispered in the dark. By the final note, the theater was breathless, suspended in awe. For a heartbeat, the world felt frozen. Then the first person rose to their feet. Another followed, and another, until the entire auditorium surged upward in a standing ovation that felt like thunder made of gratitude. Liana blinked through tears, stunned, unsure if she was dreaming or simply remembering the life she prayed for. The judges smiled now, but one of them looked almost emotional, as if her voice had unlocked something long forgotten. Backstage, crew members congratulated her, but she kept replaying the moment she thought they doubted her. That misunderstanding clung to her chest. She wondered if she truly belonged there or if she had just gotten lucky. Doubt pressed against joy like shadow against sunlight. Then, as she left the stage, a familiar face appeared, someone she never expected. It was the stranger from the night market, the man she'd once shared an umbrella with. He had come in person, holding back tears. "I didn't just record a voice," he told her gently. "I recorded kindness." People heard that. Liana's breath broke with emotion. She realized it wasn't just her talent people were applauding, it was the life woven into it. The struggle, the humility, the humanity, and for the first time, she felt worthy of the ovation echoing in her heart. The days that followed felt unreal, like she was moving through a dream stitched together by hope and exhaustion. Interviews, rehearsals, and camera crews swirled around her, yet Liana's thoughts kept drifting home. Her mother's health had dipped slightly, and guilt began tugging at her like a persistent cord she couldn't quiet. She worried her sudden rise was pulling her away instead of lifting them both. During a rehearsal, a small misunderstanding shook her again. When the producer asked if she could go bigger, Liana heard it as criticism, as if her best wasn't enough. Her voice cracked, not from strain but from fear. She excused herself and stepped into a quiet hallway, pressing her back against the wall as doubt gathered. Then her phone buzzed. A video call. Her mother's smile filled the screen, warm and steady despite the oxygen tube. "You're glowing," she said, teasing. Liana tried to hide her worry, but her mother saw straight through it. "Listen," she whispered, "don't shrink just because life has been small. Shine, expand, let others see what I've always seen." Those words settled into Liana like a steady drumbeat, clearing the fog of self-doubt. She returned to rehearsal not louder, but braver, ready for whatever came next. In the days that followed, Liana's life shifted faster than she could breathe. Interviews, rehearsals, cameras, everything felt bigger than the small world she came from. Yet every night, she returned to video calls with her mother, holding on to the only anchor that had ever kept her steady. But one evening, her mother's smile faltered. Liana sensed something was wrong. The oxygen tank hissed unevenly, like it, too, was growing tired. A wave of guilt struck her. Had she been selfish to chase this dream? The misunderstanding deepened when Liana announced she was flying home immediately. Her mother protested, thinking Liana regretted performing, fearing she had become a burden. "You go back," her mother insisted weakly. "Finish what you started. Let the world hear what I've heard all your life." Tears slipped down Liana's face as she promised she would return, not as someone torn between love and responsibility, but as someone who finally understood both. When she hung up, she stepped outside the studio, overwhelmed. Fans were waiting. A little girl approached shyly and whispered, "Your voice makes me feel brave." For the first time, Liana saw her purpose reaching beyond her own family's struggles. Her voice had become someone else's hope. Scene 5 to 200 words. Finals night arrived with a storm of lights and anticipation. Liana stood center stage, wearing a simple dress she had hand-repaired, refusing to replace it despite offers. It reminded her of where she started. The judges watched closely, the audience still, the world ready. She closed her eyes and sang, not for the trophy, not for fame, but for her mother, for the little girl, for every person who carried invisible battles. Mid-performance, the giant screen behind her flickered unexpectedly. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Liana turned, and froze. A live video feed appeared. Her mother, sitting upright, smiling proudly, hospital staff gathered around her. "I'm here, Anik," she said softly. "Sing freely. I'm okay." A shock of relief broke Liana's voice for a second, but then something miraculous happened. The audience began humming with her, as if lifting her through the emotion. Her final note soared higher than any she had ever reached, filling the theater like sunrise. When the winner was announced, the world cheered, but Liana didn't hear it. She was already running toward the screen, hands over her mouth, crying. The twist came later that night. Her mother's doctors reported unexpected improvement, citing reduced stress and renewed hope. Her song hadn't just changed her life. It helped heal the one who gave it to her.